All right, Tyler. We're good to go.
That's the hard life of a producer.
The hard life. Let's look at Tyler. Look at him back there.
Living the dream.
Living the dream on a boat. You know, he's really, really struggling back there.
I hear him snoring now.
Dan,
Zach.
it is good to meet you finally in person. I feel like
Absolutely.
in the industry, it's always been I've seen you behind the camera. And I've been like, what does that guy do? You know,
We're still figuring that out. It's one of life's great mysteries.
It's one of life's great mysteries. That's exactly right. Do me a favor, just move that like up just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
How's that?
That awesome.
Perfect.
So that, and you know, I think the first time I saw you was in the Newport Boat Show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is obviously a pretty rad place to be. You know, some of the biggest and best boats in Rhode Island coming together, well, from around the world, right?
And just such a great location. Hard to beat the Newport Boat Show.
Hard to beat the Newport Boat Show. We know what's even cooler though is like the Secret Charter Show. I don't know.
I've been to that one.
Yeah, that one's pretty neat. I always tell people, I'm like, by the way, guys, there's also a secret show.
Are we allowed to talk about this?
Wow, that's true. That's a good point. You know, they might get kind of mad.
Putting it on the podcast.
It's out to the world now.
Now everyone knows.
The millions of people that listen.
Exactly. Around the world.
That's right. That's right. But, you know, it's good to meet you in person, having seen you on, you know, countless magazines and your work as a journalist for Power Motor Yacht Magazine, all the other ones that are a part of, which we'll learn about today. But also even, you know, you going around and kind of curating the stories behind the boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now we're on your classic 28 Bertram, and, you know, it's a testament to your love for the water, right? So, you know, curious to see your come up and just how everything kind of came to be.
Sure. Well, there's a couple answers to that. I mean, one version of the story is that I got really lucky with an internship in school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for journalism and landed an internship at Yachting Magazine, and that was really where I got my foot in the door in the industry. But
why journalism?
Well, that's actually a great question. So, even from my earliest days I grew up boating with my family. We had a 33-acre harbor on Long Island. And all through my summer cruises, I would always journal. You know, so I always, you know, no one really ever read it except for my grandma. But on all our vacations, she's still one of our famous, one of our favorite readers. But, you know, I would journal about what happened that day, what happened on these vacations. And just from an early age, I don't know what it was, but I loved doing that.
Yeah.
And every night, sitting in the bunk bed, writing about the adventures and misadventures.
That's pretty cool.
Stories that only a grandma would love. And then, so get to fast forward. Now I still get to chronicle my boating adventures. Right. A little different, slightly larger audience.
And
but
you get paid?
Yes, I get some money.
That doesn't suck.
No, not at all. So really, I think that love of writing, and especially boat writing, it started from such an early age, and never knew that was going to be the path.
Yeah. Now, did you always grow up on the water? Like, there's some families that are really into hockey, right? And there's some families that are really into soccer and all these different sports. And then there's also some families that are really into boating, you know, and
that was definitely the case.
That
for
was
us.
it. Okay.
Yeah, we were born into it. You know, I remember my brother was very nearly born on the dock one day. Is a famous Harding family story, but
was he really?
It was pretty close. It was pretty close. We were I was 4 years old. We were gonna take the boat to the beach. I was all excited, sand bucket in hand, and I made it to the boat. My dad and mom were up in the parking lot, and my mom was starting to have my brother. My dad's like, "Get back in the car." I was like, "I want to go to the beach." He's like, "In the car." So, yeah, we were a boating family all the way through. Every summer,
since birth.
Yeah, especially for him, he was quite literally almost born into boating. But
that's pretty hardcore. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was our summer trips and most weekends too. In the spring, summer, and fall, we would kind of live on the family boat and really just got that feeling of escape. From the real world, and that's something I'm trying to replicate now with my family and this boat and my son. So
and so you picked this boat up. What was it last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
We picked it up in I guess it was the spring of last year, and the Bertram 28 was the dream boat for a long time. I've seen some people that have just done unbelievable restorations of it.
Yeah.
And I wanted a project boat. I maybe didn't know what level of project I was getting myself into.
Mhm.
Previously, we'd had a sailboat, a 1961 sailboat.
Who made that?
That was called a Rhodes Chesapeake.
Oh yeah,
So
I know that boat.
yeah, it was beautiful, but that was a lot of work. That was a real Craigslist special.
Nice.
And yeah, so we got this boat knowing that we had our young son on the way, and just always thought this was a great family boat. So
Yeah, I mean, I gotta
I'm
say,
excited.
and we've talked about this several times. The 28 Bertram, pretty much anything built by Ray Hunt, right? And that classic design, nice size flare, like good dead rise. It's just a good looking boat, and not a lot of people realize, but he also pretty much wrote the book on boats for Boston Whaler, Wellcraft,
That's right.
like a major boat brands. I mean, the dude was brilliant when it came to that.
Absolutely.
But the 28 Bertram is by far, when I think of like New England boats, for some reason the 28 Bertram's like top of the list. Are you the same? I'm assuming because you own one.
I like to think so. No, I've it's got a lot of appeal. It's got the Bertram name, which is very cool, and it's got the sea cred. And to me, it was also just a nice compromise of everything. Every boat is a compromise, but for us and a young family cruising New England, this was the right boat, and we're excited to kind of make it our own this year.
Yeah,
first full season.
What's the plan? Because you had mentioned I think every boat is a project in long term.
I think
right?
That's true.
There's always something to be done, but sitting here in just in the cockpit, like as we walked on the boat, like the non-skid's in great shape. Yeah. The hull's in great shape. All the windows are here. There's no cracks in them, right?
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet, right? But like, it's really, really. I mean, for 1974, like she's in really good shape.
Well, I appreciate that, and I've had a lot of help. So it's everything from we had some of the cushions redone. My grandma handmade new curtains. The old ones were just destroyed and moldy, and they were shot. And we had my parents come up a lot, help install the new water system and a lot of electrical projects. So it's I would say that boating can be done affordably. It's hard and it's rare. It's not for the faint of heart, but it really helps when you have a lot of good people around you.
Right.
And that's where I've been super lucky.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the misconception, right? Like, it is and it isn't. Boating is expensive, right?
No doubt.
It's not a cheap thing to get into, but at the same time, like, the best thing to do is build relationships in the industry.
That's right.
And I think for guys like you and I, that's a lot easier said for us because it's also our career, right?
That's right.
But there are ways around it, right? So you've mentioned your grandmother like 3 or 4 times now, right? So my guess is she's probably a pretty big influence in your career and boating and whatnot. Am I wrong about that, or?
She's definitely a big influence. Maybe not as much. I mean, my grandparents had a boat growing up, but and we did some boating together. Not a ton, but she was more of an influence. Probably more outside of the boating space, but definitely a #1 fan. So just like to give a lot of shout outs.
Shout out to Grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. I need new curtains too. One more I need a couple more done. So
come on, Grandma.
That's the plug. Get on there.
Get on there. Get those curtains going. Yeah, my grandmother was a big influence in my boating background.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, 3 months old, there's a picture of me on the boat on her fridge still.
Really? And, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's funny because we still have the boat is still around. Like, that's the boat that I go play on, and other than my boat. And, it's cool. It's a Boston Whaler, classic name.
Which one?
That one it was the first version of the Dauntless. So it was a 17 Dauntless. I now have a 17 Montauk, which is kind of like the family boat, and then a 20-foot V20 step lift.
Nice.
Which also Ray Hunt designed. Well, Montauk's Ray Hunt too.
Right.
Pretty sure. But so you growing up in the boating industry, what made you kind of take journalism, right? Because if you're sitting out there, you're writing down your stories by the end of the day, and what were those early articles about? Like, what kind of kept you going in the boating path? Like, you could have gone like, you know what, I want to be a sports journalist, right?
Sure.
Or I want to go do something else with this career, but obviously you stuck with boating.
Yeah, and I really felt the calling. I loved writing. I got a lot of positive feedback from it from my early days in school newspapers and things like that. And I really just wanted to be a writer. I was super lucky that I was able to get myself into the marine industry and really marry these two passions of mine. I didn't know that would be the case. I mean, it if you asked me at a young age, I had no indication I would write for a boating magazine. I thought maybe a fitness magazine or a newspaper or something like that. So just extremely lucky. Again, had the right internship, worked really hard to make the right connections and network, and really just make yourself indispensable. I wrote web stories at an early point for not big money, but it was just I was super hungry to keep my foot in the door. I'd opened a crack with the help of a family friend getting me an internship, but I did everything I could to elbow and push and keep that door open.
Yeah. You bring up a really cool point, which is making yourself indispensable. Like making someone actually be like, no, we want you to be here.
Yeah.
And there's no, because it sounds to me like there was no resume, right? It was like, nah, we want Dan to be here, right? Which is a cool feeling. So when you say indispensable, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, to me, it was willing to do anything. I didn't have to run and get much coffee, but I certainly, if somebody wanted it, I would have done it.
Right.
Like I said, writing these web stories for little money or just helping out any way I can. It was somebody who I met during my internship with Mary South, later became the editor-in-chief of Yachting, and she remembered me from my internship, and she was the person who really gave me my first crack and first full-time position in the industry.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then just did whatever you could to stay in it, because it was kind of a funny story. After college, I was the editor-in-chief of the school paper. I had all these great internships at Yachting and Newsday. I thought anyone's going to crack into journalism. I got this. I'm the hot stuff. Well, you graduate, and this is 2011. You realize pretty quickly I was maybe as hot as I thought I was. I had a short stint where I was a sinkhole inspector.
What?
Yes.
A sinkhole inspector?
Yeah, it was. They were digging a tunnel through a rail yard, and essentially my job was to stand in this rail yard and inspect for sinkholes. This was in Sunnyside Yard in Queens. It was about as far away from marine journalism as you can get.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it was a real humbling moment, and at that point, I was so hungry to get out from being a sinkhole inspector. I used to write these stories for a small publication called Boating Times Long Island.
Okay.
And they paid $70 per story.
Yep.
And that would be a feature length story, and so I'd be traveling around, and I was willing to do that too, just to get the clips.
Yeah.
And I think working that sinkhole job really got any entitlement I had out of my mind. It was like I would have written for free,
right,
to keep my foot in the door and to get a job like I have today.
Right.
Super blessed.
And stay hungry.
Yeah.
Right. That's such a huge part of being, like, trotting down that path and doing what you want to do. Like, merging your passion with what you actually get paid to do is so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, because anyone could go apply for a job.
Yeah.
Like, send your resume, go do the thing. Like, okay, yep, we can do that. Is it still hard? Absolutely. Is there a lot of work that goes into it? Absolutely. But merging your passions together and figuring out, like, no, this is what I'm called to do, and this is what I need to do it, is usually a very windy uphill battle of just doing whatever, you know, just being hungry day in and day out and figuring that out. So you bring up, a really good point, right? And I think, you mentioned this book called, what was it? What was it called? Remind me again.
Oh, was it Great Leaders Ask Good Questions?
Great Leaders Ask Good Questions, right? And I kind of wanted to make that like the theme of this conversation, right?
Sure.
And then also getting into the boating industry. But a great leader asks good questions, and they listen really well, right? And as a journalist, you're doing both, right? So what is it about going out and getting a story? Like, how do you go about doing that?
That's a great question. There's so many different ways of going about it. Perhaps my favorite way is spending time out in the water and just talking to people. And like you said, being a good listener. There's so many people have interesting stories if you're willing to stop talking long enough and and ask. A lot of it is some of our best stories have come word of mouth. You're talking to a boater on the dock who turns you on to an issue or a story. At Power Motor Yacht, we do a lot of boat reviews, so that's really a big chunk of our bread and butter. But
Mhm.
we might be reviewing a new Viking or a new Sunseeker, and at the same point might meet an interesting delivery captain.
Right.
I'm sure you could relate to that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it feels like delivery captains are some of the most interesting people sometimes.
The characters.
Yeah, I mean, just recently, for example, I was able to, with some colleagues, take a new Beneteau Swift trawler
Okay.
to Bimini for kind of like an extended test.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
what a horrible time.
Hard job, I know. But one of the most interesting things, one of the real heroes of the story was the delivery captain.
Yeah.
He had all this pressure to fit this trip in a certain timeline, and it wasn't really something he was comfortable with given the weather and conditions. So he was somebody I was like really earning a lot of respect for him. And then later, come to find out, we sit down, we're talking like we are now. He was in the 1979 Fastnet, one of the deadliest sailboat races of all time. And
wow.
He was sharing different lessons he's learned from that race that kept him alive then, and how it influences his delivery work today. And then gave me a lot of takeaways that now I'm passing on to our readers in an upcoming story. So that was a very recent, just a couple of weeks ago, but that's just a really good example of keeping your eyes open and talking to people, honestly.
Right. Yeah, and there seems to be there's a skill associated with that, and then all of a sudden, selfishly, you learn a lot through that, right?
100%.
For this podcast, honestly, I've called it my self-made MBA, right? Because here I am talking to businesses, and I'm talking to people like you, and it's like, shit, I could go to school and study and research, right, all this, or I just go talk to the guy, why? It just sounds like a no-brainer. So with you taking that same, in a similar mentality, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you've learned from just being a journalist and asking questions?
Wow, that's a really good question. I've learned a lot that has influenced my own boating is probably one of the biggest things. And it's a similar theme to this captain I was just telling you about. But from my earliest days reading the magazines, I learned about different disasters or different times when things went wrong, and how the number one cause of that was a strict schedule, right? And an itinerary that someone wouldn't bend on. They put themselves in a bad situation. And I think through reading all those stories, that's something that, man, I've written about it, I've read about it. I should really practice what I preach, and it's not always easy, but there's a million things like that things I've learned from the magazine that impact me. Just recently, I was talking to my boss, editorial director Bill Sisson, and he was sharing kind of a dark story about we were sharing concerns. My young son is going to be boating with us this year, and we were just talking about how our plan to keep him safe and things like that. And he shared a story that he reported on years ago of a kid that was a young boy, maybe 13 years old, was swimming down, pulling up an anchor, and ended up in this tragic accident of, he got tangled up in the line. Sorry for the dark side story, but he was sharing the story with me, and it just stuck with me that, it's something I would have seen myself doing as a kid.
Right.
The anchor was stuck on a rock. Hey,
dive down,
Johnny,
get it.
Swim down, get this thing unjammed. And it was a story that will stick with me forever. If the anchor's stuck, let it go.
Right.
It's not worth injury or worse. Nope. So it's just a lot of stories like that.
Yeah. A lot of life lessons kind of intertwined in that. And what's kind of cool is, and again, somewhat selfishly, you learn from all those other people instead of having to
do it yourself,
right? Which is, there's something to be said about learning in the moment, but if you can avoid those moments, that's also a pretty good way too.
100%.
So as you kind of moved through life and found your way into Power Motor Yacht Magazine and what is now, correct me if I'm wrong, AIM Media, right?
That's right. Yep.
You guys have an incredible, absolutely incredible reach, right?
Yeah.
And all the different assets that you guys have, from magazines to the YouTube channel, social media, there's a lot here, right? So give us a little bit more of a 30,000-foot view of what is AIM Media and what are you guys all about?
Well, it's a great question, and I appreciate you always do your homework. But the cool thing, AIM Media is a collection of a ton of different magazines, but I'm going to focus really on the marine group. And what makes us special is that we have 7 or 8 different publications, and they all have their niche within the boating industry. So we have, like Soundings Trade Only is our B2B title. If you're a trawler enthusiast and passage making is your thing, we have Passage Maker, Angler's Journal, Yachts International for the super yacht side. And having all these titles allows us to really serve the boaters.
Right.
So it's you try to be all things to everybody. Something you don't really, it's not a magazine that people really relate to.
Right.
So I think our collection of titles that hit all these different niches and serve these different boats and boaters is what is our biggest strength. And what makes us unique compared to anybody else is all of our magazines, we work really well together. So at some other companies, it's, you might have a number of magazines in one publishing company, but there's very little interaction. I mean, with us, we're on a weekly call with the editor of Soundings and Yachts International and Sail Magazine and all these others, and we're constantly picking each other's brains. Where can we collaborate? Where do we have crossover? Where can we share resources? And it's such a special group, and we're lucky that it's very unique. All the editors get along so well. It's just like a really good group of people, just like a good group of boaters, people you just want to hang out with. So it's a group of people all pulling in the same direction, and I think that's the people is really what makes working at AIM so special.
Right. Yeah, it's a good crew. No pun
100%.
intended.
Well said. Well said. +1 for nautical
Yeah,
terms.
right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. How many nautical puns can we jam into this podcast?
Please.
Yeah.
Game on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Now we're on the same page.
We're away.
Love it. So, but your job there is editor in chief,
That's
right?
right.
So, as someone who's kind of overlooking and overseeing like content that's coming in, what we're talking about, what the voice of the brands are going to be, because you guys are multiple different assets here.
Yeah.
When you guys are going about into the boating season, right? Especially here in New England, because it's so seasonality, and there's a lot of specialty being up in New England, right? I mean, I've always thought like you kind of have to earn your summer, right? Where you sit through the winter and it sucks, and and it's not that. I mean, I don't ski or anything.
No,
so,
me neither. I'm with you. It's terrible.
3 months.
Why are we not in Florida?
I know that's. I was just there, and I'm thinking to myself, man, these people boat year round. Like
they got to figure it out.
They got to figure it out.
I'm just jealous.
Yeah. But it's a lot sweeter up here, in my opinion. I don't know.
Especially in the summer. Yeah.
It tastes better. Yeah. So you have those 3 months to really kind of share what you guys are doing, right? Obviously, you guys are industry-wide, right? But there's something special about being up here in New England and the tradition of boating. So do you think there's a correlation between New England and being up here and rather than being somewhere else? I mean...
Well, it's a good question, and certainly New England's home for me, and I love it. And the boating season here, it is special because I have this argument all the time with my Florida colleagues. It's when it is short like that, it makes it a little. I feel like it makes it a little more special. You got it.
Right.
You earn it a little more, but we are lucky that we travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we're always chasing stories. We're regularly down in Florida. We got a colleague that's going up to a boat show in Anacortes this week, and I just came back from Italy. Again, tough job.
Man,
but
I feel so sorry for
I get no sympathy, probably rightfully so. But we're so lucky that this is this job is our passion, and we get to travel the world covering it.
Yeah. What were you doing in Italy?
I was visiting a boatyard.
Okay. And what was the premise behind that?
Well, I mean, really, one of the big things we try to do is we have this responsibility to cover these boats, and one of my favorite perks of the job is to get to see behind the scenes of some of these boat builders. And that's, there's so many boats that are beautiful at the boat show, but anytime you get the chance to peek behind the curtain, right, and see how are these guys building the boat in the areas where you can't see, what do their wire runs look like? That's where you could tell.
Yeah.
Which boat builders are great and which are just okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think whenever I hop on a new boat at a boat show or just in anything, I always open up like if it's center console, right? Open up the center console, look under and where the helm station is.
Exactly.
And see what the wiring looks like. If it looks like a rat's nest, then I'm all set. If every wire is individually strung and is like perfectly made and like it just looks gorgeous, I'm like, how much do you want for this thing?
Exactly.
Right?
It's the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Exactly.
And that's always a great opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. So from an industry standpoint, because you guys obviously having all these different categories, you're in a unique position to really share, not only the lifestyle and importance of boating and the tradition behind it, which in and of itself like is a great thing, but also like behind the curtain, as you said, of the industry. And we're in a great time for the industry, and there's also some struggles in the industry right now. I mean, even from a standpoint of supply chain, right?
Yeah, that's the big one.
Super hard right now, right? I was at the boat show, and Yamaha was like, we don't have engines. Like, they just don't exist right now. And it's like, man, like a couple of years ago, it was propellers, right? Yeah. I think didn't their factory burn down or something like that, or something crazy?
I didn't know there was issues there. I didn't hear about a fire though.
Maybe I'm making something up. Maybe I heard that somewhere else, but I know they had an issue with propellers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So, with you guys being in the position that you are, how important do you think it is to kind of be that voice, not only for the boater, but more so the industry?
That's another good question. I mean, and one of our titles that really does a great job reporting on that is Sounding Straight Only. I mean, they've spearheaded our content on the supply chain issues. I mean, they've had, it's like an ongoing 6-part series, really, and they have a responsibility to the industry to be reporting on these things, and I think they're doing a tremendous job. We also cover it to a certain extent, especially the with the Yamaha shortages. That was an unbelievable story that affected so many people in the industry that we really had a responsibility to report on that as well.
Right.
Everybody from the boat builders, but even the small boat yard that we share an office with. Yeah. It's the small mom and pop marinas and boat yards were really being affected. And then boaters themselves were coming to us and saying, look, I'm being told by the boat builder I can't get my boat for 2 years. Is that true? Right. So we were kind of in reacting to those demands and those questions. Yeah. Then we were reporting on that.
Yeah, you guys are kind of like a beacon for the industry. Whether you're someone that is just getting into boating or, someone that's been in the industry for a long time. Yeah. And what's interesting is COVID has totally changed the environment that we're in, right?
100%.
I mean, for a lot of reasons elsewhere, but in the boating industry, it has absolutely skyrocketed, right? Yeah. It's been really cool, but it's also been somewhat scary at the same time.
Yeah, good point. The thing that's probably most amazing to me with the COVID surge in boaters, I understood it that first summer. That first summer, camps were canceled, sports were canceled. It was a great way to social distance. It's why RVs did so well. Yep. I predicted that these boaters are now going to go through a winter season. They're going to get the winter bill. They're going to be really exposed to some of the challenges in our sport. Yeah. And but the amazing thing is it's been the opposite. The retention has been incredible. There's still new boaters that are entering the industry. So that's been amazing. I would have lost money on that bet, but you know what it is? It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people in the industry, and it's an opportunity if we can retain them.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think, and so much of the industry is really, as it continues to evolve, is getting that younger generation to buy into it, right? I mean, you see a lot of younger boaters now, right? Young professionals, in their, let's just call it like in their 30s, right? Who have some income that they can then spend elsewhere, right? And now we're seeing this also a shift from the industry side of things, right? So not only is the boater younger, and is that group's going to be younger, but also the industry of in itself, right? So from your guys' point of view, the industry, in my opinion, has always been a somewhat antiquated, right? Just in the way we do things, right? It's always been a little bit slow to get to like where the car industry is at, like if we're going to be comparatively, right?
That's fair.
So as you guys stand and beginning to see the 30,000-foot view, where do you guys see the industry going in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, we are in such an interesting time period, and it's such an interesting time to be a reporter and a marine journalist. Because I would say we have seen a lot of change in recent years. It wasn't that long ago that IPS was just coming onto the scene, and now joysticks are on every boat. Down to single outboard boats, and so I think the change in the propulsion, seeing the outboard market explode in recent years has been really kind of fascinating, and I think the perfect thing for some of these new boaters who probably have, fixed amount of time. You got a morning off before you got to get the kids to soccer practice. So the outboard technology has come so far so fast, and with the joysticks and technology as a whole. I mean, just the boating experience, I think, is changing, and it is becoming more automotive. It is becoming more that you can come down to your boat, flip a switch, or turn your air conditioner on from your phone on your way down, and it's an exciting time. And where do I see it going? I think it's going to continue to evolve, and especially I think it's going to be interesting on the propulsion side of things. I think the outboard trend is not a trend. I mean, that's here to stay.
100%.
And but another thing, I think we do a lot of reporting on electric propulsion. Talk about following the audio industry, and we are typically behind them, by a good number of years. But I think as electric cars, you see more and more of them on the road. They're becoming more accepting of them on their boats. We have a lot of reporting coming up on a number of different electric boats.
Yeah.
A lot coming out of Scandinavia and Norway.
Yep.
But look at Torqeedo and all of these players. Greenline was one of the first companies that had this kind of hybrid electric system, but now they're one of 10 that offer that at walking the docks at a boat show.
Yeah. It's been recently going down to the Miami Boat Show and checking that out. It was eye opening, right? I mean, even the Yamaha 600, like, man, that's a good looking motor.
Or the Mercury.
The Mercury, I'm sorry, Mercury.
Yeah, that's okay. Unless you know something I don't.
No, I don't. Yeah, the Yamaha, the 425s,
that's
right?
Yep.
But the Mercury 600, like, that's man,
well,
badass.
Just look at that technology. I mean, it was exciting to report on just because of the sheer horsepower, the size of it, but the moving lower unit and the technology behind that is a game changer. The torque problems that they're solving. Look at the size of these boats you're pushing with a couple outboards now. It's previously it would have been unthinkable. Yeah,
I mean, you see like a 50-foot boat with outboards on it nowadays, and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's I had the opportunity to get on the that HCB 65 for one of the first tests, and it's like, what world are we in right now?
Right. A 65-foot center console.
And that'll be beat too.
Oh, 100%. There'll be a 100-foot one. It's definitely down the road.
You can't rule it out.
No, I mean, I remember watching. It was Yuruko, right?
That's right.
Jarrett Bay.
That's right.
They built a 90-foot sport fish, where I think it was everything below the waterline was Kevlar, and then everything above was carbon fiber, or maybe it was the reverse effect. I can't remember.
No, I was actually on that boat as well. I mean,
were you really?
That thing is just. I know. I just hearing myself. I'm like, I'm the worst. But that boat was amazing. Down to the carbon fiber toilet seats and just the technology that. Forward thinking that this boat is going to be adapted to have some foils underneath, not America's Cup style where it lifts it up, but that boat is an amazing piece of technology.
Yeah, it's pretty damn cool. And for as much as the boating industry has kind of lagged in the past, we're at this point now where there's so much positive momentum, right? I mean, we're in a point where right now electric cars are really not that old, right? I mean, it's only now until I feel like you're starting to see commercials on TV, and they're getting more and more. I mean, Chevrolet just came out with their electric truck, right? Which is, in my opinion, was a really good-looking truck.
It is, yeah.
But that's brand new, right? And all of a sudden, Mercury is coming out with an electric outboard. Like, the boating industry and the car industry are really getting close, and it's been really cool to see the technology come in, because what it's doing is it's tightening that gap between I don't know how to drive a boat and I'm really kind of frightened by it to, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy a boat. No problem, right?
Well, I'm sure you're seeing that a lot. I mean, you have experience in training new boaters. And, I mean, how much and when was it that you were doing that? That was a number of years ago.
Yeah, that was in 2018, 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so not too long ago.
Right, but I mean, how much the technology is even changing now where it's, I mean, almost everyone who's buying a new boat, it's going to have some sort of joystick. And how much that has just changed everything, I think.
100%. And you got companies like Siren Marine that everything's by your phone now. Like,
I was going to mention the digital switching
it's crazy. It's unbelievable.
Really things.
I mean, you wonder what it's going to look like 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I was growing up, it was, I mean, I still had a two-stroke engine where you're mixing the oil in the fuel, and like that's just what it was. And then when we switched to four-stroke, it's like, oh man, you can actually hear yourself think, and then you're also not choking on fumes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So to see now we're at a point where it's all electric, like, who knows, right?
Well, especially, it's one thing that's funny. We tested a Torqeedo outboard a number of years ago, and this was when Torqeedo was just really kind of coming on the scene in the U.S. And you look at the dinghy dock, which is packed, and we'd be the only one with one of those little electric motors.
Yeah.
Now you go to dinghy docks, especially around New England, but I've been to dinghy docks around the country, and now half of them are electric, and it makes sense because you're charging the batteries on your boat. You don't have to diesel boats don't have to carry gas anymore.
Yep.
And they're really good, quite frankly.
Yeah. The other thing that I saw at the boat show, which was really neat, was the Ox diesel outboards, which I think puts from a government standpoint or commercial use,
right.
A lot of guys are switching that way, right? Because you're using one fuel source. Even yachts are doing it now.
I like it for the yacht tender market and like what you said, the commercial use, because I think for it to still kind of pay off, you got to be running the boat a lot. I don't know if it's quite there for the recreational market, but it's making inroads there as well.
Yeah. No, it's been neat. So as someone that's been kind of at the forefront of seeing all this new technology, I mean, I'll go to a boat show, I'll be like, wow, that's really cool. But meanwhile, Dan's already reported on it like 6 months ago. He's like, yeah, I've been on that boat. I was out in Italy.
What a jerk.
Yeah, come on, man. I got to like text you when you're. So what's new this week in Dan's world?
Well, it's so funny. For all the millions of listeners out there, I live a double life. I mean, it's my work life, and then it would be funny. I'll go and review this Italian yacht, and I'll be there with the designers. Like, have you ever thought about this? And like, oh, yes. And then I come out here to a leaky sailboat in the mooring field. So it's the weirdest double life, but I wouldn't change it. It's awesome.
Yeah. What do you think the coolest experience that you've had being able to travel around, look at boats, coolest experience and favorite boat?
Ooh. Wow. This is a tough one. Well, my go-to favorite experience, I already shared my my glory days looking for sinkholes, but I was pretty new to the industry. I was maybe was just a few months into the industry, and I got the opportunity to cover the Mount Gay Rum Regatta in Barbados.
Oh man, okay.
Tough. You want to talk about tough assignment? We're like doing rum tastings, and I'm sailing around on this 100-foot yacht. But that just showed how weird my life was. It was where 5 months earlier, I'm standing there with a vest and a hard hat, standing around looking for a sinkhole that's never going to come. And then months later, you're just sailing around in one of these yachts. So that to me was a special one that set the hooks pretty early. Like, I like to do this. This feels like something I could be doing.
Yeah.
So that story has a place in my heart. And then favorite boat is it's such a good question, but another one holds a place in my heart is the Huckins 45 Sport Fisherman.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's I love that builder. It's just like a classic Americano, like one of the first American boat builders, and it was actually one of my first boats I got to test at AIM. Was this Huckins 45, and it was, I think the headline was like "Wolf in Sheep's Clothing," where it was this storied builder, but it was a fiberglass boat. I believe it was IPS, and it was just perfect. It didn't have a million TVs. It didn't have every piece of new technology. There was no carbon fiber toilet in that one. But it was just classic. It was beautiful. Had everything you needed for a family. Yep. And the owner was great, and that one.
That was the one.
That one was a winner. Yeah, that one was hard to beat. You know what? There's so many boats, but I could see myself in that one. So if they're listening and want like a summer rental program or something,
sponsor Dan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He'll write a great story and get you on a podcast. And come by.
That. What about you? Dream boat.
Dream boat. Oh man, I've been really looking at the Release Boatworks.
Beautiful.
They're just phenomenal. I think their fit and finish is gorgeous. Frankly, I've never been on one, but based on what they have on Instagram, I'd gladly, if you're listening, I'd gladly take one. I'm an outboard guy. I love the idea of diesel motors, but honestly, just the loud noise, if I could do without that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of boats these days are pretty well insulated,
True.
And, with outboards, you get, they're easy to replace, I mean, they are expensive.
Although expensive,
Yeah, but if possible, right? I think parts become a little bit more available somewhat. And then at the same time, like, gas, right? It just makes life easy.
Sure.
But to have a diesel, an inboard boat, I think if you get something with like twin cats on it or something like that, I mean, that's always awesome too. Well, I ran a boat for Cito, and it's a UTB 41, and it's a utility boat. So basically, the Coast Guard, when they started transitioning to lighter, faster boats like the 45 response boat and all those just jet drives and whatnot, they started getting rid of the UTBs and just using them as like backup. And honestly, that boat right there, is probably the most easy to drive, super fun, and quick. Like for 41 feet, it did like 25 knots.
Okay.
And not that that's like super quick, but for an old, I think it was built in like 1970 something, like late 70s.
That's amazing that your dream boat, besides the release, is a 1970s boat. I love it.
Dude, I like
your style.
It's all aluminum. Like if you took that boat and redid it and made it something like really, really cool, I think that'd be it.
I think that's a story I'm interested in. Keep me posted
the
on
41?
that one.
I'll let you know.
Power
It might be a
Motoryacht
little.
will follow the bill.
It might be a little while.
All right, well, we could hang in there.
Yeah, well, the one that I ran for Cito, they actually purchased it from a guy who was commuting from Falmouth to Nantucket, and that was his like little commuter boat, or maybe it would have been Falmouth to the Vineyard, but he was like some wealthy guy that was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this and commute from it. So
right.
Sure
beats the ferry.
Sure beats the ferry.
And this is what I'm talking about. I mean, this is the kind of stories that come up organically just by talking to the docs, and it's like, that sounds like a profile we need to do.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely, yeah. And that's kind of the cool thing about the industry, though, is there's so many, much like Narragansett Bay, which I know you've been to. Selfishly, I think it's the best place in the world to go boating.
I wouldn't argue that at all.
No?
No, I lived in Newport for around 3 years.
That's
and that was the years we had the sailboat, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a better body of water.
Yeah.
All protected. The places you can go, Bristol, Newport, Jamestown.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
That's a special body of water there.
And there's so many nooks and crannies, right? And within each nook and cranny, there's another story to be told, right? Like, what's that rock signify? Or what is that wreck over there? Or how did this happen? And there's so much history in that bay. And there's so much history on the water. I think that's why I love New England so much, is because there's so much tradition associated with the water.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
you could feel the history in cruising New England, I feel like.
Right. I mean, the Keys and all those in Florida definitely has that too.
Fair.
But, I mean, country started here, so.
But, okay, winner. Chalk one up for New England.
That's right. So as this evolves, right, the industry's going in a really special place. You guys are evolving with it.
Yeah.
Right. So how have you guys kind of taken by storm the evolving, like, where we're going next? I mean, you guys have the podcast. You guys are a force on social media. Obviously, articles and blogs, like, that's not going away.
Right.
And in my opinion, paid advertising is actually probably going to get pushed to the wayside. And really, what it comes down to is content marketing and creating content, which is what you guys have been mastering for years and years and years.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. And I think what it all comes down to in media these days is it's a war for attention span. This is something what my boss and mentor is always preached is, you're not competing with another boating magazine. You're competing with Netflix. You're competing with everything on your cell phone. And if people are going to take time out of their incredibly busy lives to sit down with your magazine or your Instagram or watch one of our videos or listen to the podcast, it's got to be quality content. And quality has never been more important. I think it's, the minute you start phoning it in, rewriting a press release is the minute you lose a reader forever. People are more demanding. They demand great content, or they're going to move on to something else.
Yeah.
So that's something we try to always keep in our mind is, like, remember, it's a war for attention span. If people are giving us their attention, we need to be good stewards of it. We need to give them something that's going to stick with them. Yeah. And anytime another principle of what we do is we always try to ask ourselves, what do we want to consume? We're lucky enough to be boaters. We spend a lot of time on the water. How do we make the magazine that we'd want to read? Right. And that's really been a question we ask ourselves at the start of every new issue. One issue goes out the door, the next one comes out. It's like, what do we want to read about? And, let's get a nice mix of interesting profiles that are going to inspire you, or let's, a couple safety stories that are going to impact boaters. And then, of course, some reviews that are honest.
Yeah.
That's another big cross we have to bear, and a big part of the Power Motor Yacht job is not just, again, glossing over and rewriting a press release, but doing a deep dive into a review, not just testing the boat, but then going to the factory to see where the boat's made, and then going to talk to the owner of that boat.
Right.
That's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but we then kind of let the stories dictate the medium.
Right.
So there are certain stories that are just born for video. A famous one we did was we had a Palm Beach 70, and they called it a commuter yacht. And we're like, okay, well, how can we do this story a little differently? Well, we're thinking about the commuter yacht and the Gilded Age, where people would take these boats into Manhattan. So we came up with this crazy idea. We're going to have one of my colleagues take a train into Manhattan, and the boat is going to race the train, and it's going to be this race down to Wall Street.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it was just like, it was a fun way. We reported on the boat. We gave potential buyers the information they needed. But for any boater, even if you're not interested in buying the Palm Beach, hopefully it was an entertaining story that had mixed a little bit of history, some fun, some humor, and some information. But that was born for video, right? You can't do that story without a video. But then sometimes you might be just sitting down with a salty soul, and it's more of a podcast. It's a better medium for it. So we try to find the best stories in boating, and then figure out what medium is best.
Yeah, interesting. Who won the race?
It was a close one.
It was a close one?
The train edged the boat out. There's a couple no wake zones I forgot about. So, but back then they didn't have it, so it would have been a closer. Race.
Right. So back in the Gilded Age, they probably would have won with the yacht.
Arriving to the city on a Palm Beach 70.
Oh, you don't
lose. There's no losers in a race like that.
No, I think the guy on the yacht wins on that one. Yeah, because imagine showing up to the office like, oh, sorry guys, the
no wake zone slowed me down.
No wake zone took me out a little bit. Yeah, that's
amazing,
crazy.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who knows a cool yacht is Billy Joel.
Yeah.
He has a cool commuter.
Yeah.
Out of where is it? Westerly. He keeps it. Well, he keeps it in Long Island, and then he will keep it in Westerly as well. I'm
drawing a blank on that boat's name right now.
The Vendetta.
Thank you. We reported on that boat, and the refit on that one was was amazing. It was it's not Vendetta isn't Billy Joel's anymore, but it was, but it's still in Rhode Island. And it was refit by a new owner who did an unbelievable job. I forget where the refit was done, but they did such a classy job modernizing it while keeping that commuter yacht.
That fit and finish
aesthetics.
Yeah.
That's a real celebrity boat.
Yeah. Well, and the name is pretty badass too.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Vendetta.
It's I'm from Long Island, so anything Billy Joel is okay by me.
Yeah. It's funny. Like every time I would go out to Block Island, mostly like doing a job out there, I would always throw on what's the name of the song?
Downeaster Alexa.
Downeaster Alexa.
Oh, I brush my teeth to that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the best.
Yeah, people would be like, dude, again? Really?
Oh,
Come on.
Any of my colleagues that have cruised with me will say the same thing. It's like, really? Here's Dan again.
There it is.
Downeaster Alexa.
It's like, you know what?
It just hits.
When
it hits, it feels right.
Exactly. And plus, every time you listen to it, you make it home. So there's a correlation
Knock
there.
on wood, yes.
Knock on wood, right? Yeah, Billy Joel for the win.
That's it.
Yeah. So, to kind of wrap it up, like, as just from your perspective, right, when you see so much going on in the industry, you see a lot of things going on social, how do you kind of take a step back and still enjoy boating for what it is, right? Like, how do you kind of go out on the water, get the story out of your head, like, work, all that stuff, and really focus on, like, what it is, what it means for your soul, right? Like, for me, boating has always been a passion. It's that time of day when if I'm having a bad day or if I just want to, like, totally zone out, I can go for a boat ride, and it's like I got, like, I don't even know. You just got this, like, shot of passion. It's a reset. Yeah, it's a great way to say it, So how do you still keep that at bay? Like, how do you still keep the work separated from the passion and the pleasure, but at the same time, you still allow them to meet in the middle?
That's an interesting way of putting it. I guess I haven't thought of it too much. It's you know, I've never had any issue where, you know, boating is my passion and my pastime, and then, you know, do I ever get tired of it because I'm you know, always talking boats or getting on different boats? But it's been so different for me. You know, it's when maybe it is kind of this double life because I'm reviewing the nicest boats out there, and then at the end of the day, I'm working on a classic boat with my wife and family. It's it's funny they mix well though too. It's just hearing you talk about boating as a reset is something I've preached forever. And you know, right out behind us is a mooring field where we had the sailboat, and then last year we had the Bertram. And one of my biggest secrets was, you know, every once in a while, my favorite thing in boating was we would sleep on the boat on a weeknight. And that's, you want the secret to life. I mean, that's, you know, I'd get out of work. My wife would meet us and take the dog and the dinghy out to the boat, maybe grill out and sleep out on the boat. No TV, none of these distractions, just, you know, looking up at the stars, having a real conversation, just taking that deep breath that you can't quite do at home. And then, you know, you wake up on the water, and to me that's a special thing. You get to wake up, and when your day starts with a dinghy ride, and when your commute starts with a dinghy ride back to the dinghy dock, you're bound to have a good day. You can't help but I would come into the office on days like that with a smile on my face, and it felt like I had like the world's biggest secret. It felt like I just had a 3-day vacation. It was and few things can do that for me. You have that reset, get away from all the distractions. When I'm on the boat, you know, my wife and I try to push each other to put the phones away. You know, we even play a game if we're boating to a certain destination. No Google Maps. You know, why don't you walk around and try to ask somebody where the ice cream shop is, or find something cool without your head buried in your phone. And you know, there's just so many distractions today on land between your phone and different commitments, family, friends, work. It's you know, the rat race, and and being on the water, it feels like, you know, we leave all that shit on the dock. Yep.
Yeah, it forces you to be present.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I hope the readers of Power Motor Yacht, or, you know, people who watch our videos, I hope they capture that. I hope, you know, because when I come back from these boat trips, that's something I kind of use as a lens that I look through the industry through my own experiences. I hope people stay in it. I hope they make great memories with their family. I hope they're inspired to cruise a little further because of a story they read, or be a little safer because of a story they read. Yeah, I hope it complements people's great boating memories.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys definitely accomplished that. I mean,
thank you.
Being around for how many years now?
Man, I think 36, 37 years.
37, yeah, 36, 37 years. Like, I think you guys accomplished that mission.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So, Dan, really good having you on the show. Glad we could make this happen. Wow, that was loud.
That's the send-off.
That's the send-off, yeah. Well, it looks like we got to catch ourselves a quick 30-second ferry ride home.
You got to take the boat home.
Got to take the boat home
from Essex Island.
Across, from Essex Island.
Safe travels. The seas are pretty calm for you. Put on the PFD, and you'll make it okay.
Yeah, we'll make it all right. Yeah, cool. All right, Dan. Well,
excellent.
Hey, yeah, good talking.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah. All right.